Well, hello. I'm Christopher Lloyd with the Film Yap, and I'm joined today by John Hasbrook, a Hoosier filmmaker who has worked on the film Moana 2. John, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
And obviously, I will start with congrats on working on Moana 2. I know certainly one of the most highly anticipated films of this season. The first one was so beloved, commercially, critically. I think meant a lot, to families. It was a wonderfully diverse story. So why don't we just start off with you telling us how you came to be involved with working on this film?
Well, I could start at the beginning. I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana, and I like to draw from an early age. From 3 to 4, I was drawing hours every day. And I saw Aladdin and wrote a letter to Burbank, California, saying I want to work there at this studio. And I got a letter back a couple months later, and they said, thanks for interest. We make films for people like you. Here's the type of jobs we have: animator, layout artist, in-betweener, ink and paint. And here's a book, the book's reading list if you're inspired. So that letter felt like it was to me. And I know they sent out thousands of those, I'm sure, but it just really inspired me to think this could be a reality one day.
And how old were you when you wrote that letter?
Fourth grade, 11 years old. And
All
then
right.
jump ahead. I was pre-med at Indiana University. My dad is still practicing doctor in Indianapolis. And 2 months in, I realized it's not for me. I think I want to pursue the animation thing. And my dad, 100% on board, said, let's do this. So
all right.
California.
I've got to imagine hearing that from your dad, hearing that, no, I'm not going to be a doctor and like you. I want to go make cartoons. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, it seems like it worked out pretty well. So tell us a little bit about growing up in Indianapolis and just a little bit about your life's journey.
Yeah, so I like to draw. I loved art, and I don't know, that just was the thing I do. And I have two sisters, and we just loved films. We love 80s Saturday morning cartoons. My dad worked a lot, and I would go with him to his hospital rounds. And my sisters and I would sit in the doctor's lounge watching the 80s cartoons while he was doing rounds seeing patients. So I have a fond memory of being in the hospital rooms watching these 80s cartoons that were inspiring me. We love film. I'm the youngest, and I was watching what they were watching. My sisters really got into Little Mermaid. They got into Beauty and the Beast. And then when Aladdin came out, that's what inspired me to write the letter. This one feels like this is my movie. That is still in my top, probably my #1 film of all time. So that was the moment that set me on this path.
And how did you make that shift? I know obviously it's big journey to go, Hollywood and elsewhere, but like how did you break into the business and get where you are now?
Well, I transferred from Indiana University to the Art Institute in San Francisco. So I found a university that offered a degree in animation, which at the time was pretty rare still. So I have a Bachelor's of Science in Media Arts and Animation, and moved to San Francisco, where there's a lot was happening at that time with Pixar and ILM and DreamWorks and other things. So my first 10 years of my career was animator in video games.
I saw that.
So that felt like the dream, and I'm an animator. I'm a working animator. This is unbelievable. But in my mind, the dream, the childhood dream, was always Walt Disney Animation and feature animation. And I'm still watching that. I'm inspired by that. My wife and I would go to all the animated films before we had children. And for the last 10 years, I've worked in film. So eventually the game cinematic art and cinematography of game cinematics transferred into visualization. So I worked for a company that worked on 30 films in visualization, which is the same job I do here, just in live action. Before they shoot it, we would do an animated version of these sequences, including 11 Marvel films that I'm very proud of.
Yeah, so the thing I wanted to ask about was you've got a lot of credits as a visualization artist, which is kind of a pre-production role, if I've got that right. And you're credited on Moana 2 as a layout artist. And maybe if you could just talk a little bit about those two different things, because I think they are very different, right?
Yeah, they are. And The work is the same though. So it's the creating a 3D version of a live action film. So we have the characters, we're setting the cameras, the lensing, the staging, and for the visualization of the live action, we're trying to plan it all out, get the edit working, get the timing before they go, shut down the freeway, hire hundreds of people, get the location. So it's more of a budgetary thing. And for this is the same work I do here, except that camera is the final camera. So I have Moana and her sister and, framing the shot. Then we publish that through and it goes on to all the other departments can then take it on and animate it and light it and add effects. And so we kind of are where the train hits the tracks in feature production.
Yeah, and I saw you worked on, in addition to video games, you worked on some Marvel movies, obviously a number of things in the Disney umbrella. And just tell me about, where you are now, what it's like as a creative place, because obviously just so many beloved projects come out of the Disney family.
Yeah, and I've been a Disney fan my whole life. As I was saying, I grew up on these films. It was the Renaissance. It was really inspiring. And last year we had our 100th anniversary of the Walt Disney Animation Studio. And I was the director of cinematography on Once Upon a Studio, was a short to celebrate our 100th anniversary. And the characters come out of the building of our studio. So that was an honor and a pinch me moment to work with these legends. Some of the legends on the team, they brought back animators from these films of my youth. Ruben Aquino, the animated Ursula. So he drew on pencil and paper, drew Ursula again. And the directors were so impressed. I was like, I can't believe this is so good. When's the last time you drew Ursula? He's like, 30 years ago, like for the film. He hadn't done it, but he drew Crazy Ursula, all the tentacles. And the head of the 2D animation is Eric Goldberg, who does the Minnie Maui 2D animation in Moana 2. So he animated almost all of the genie in Aladdin, the film that inspired me the most. And then I'm working with him side by side on a project. Is unbelievable.
Yeah, and I'm imagining at some point, you'll be the old head that people are looking to for inspiration and, passing down what you know. So kind of coming for a full circle there.
Yeah, and people have been here a long time. The offices next to me have been there 27 and 35 years. So we just celebrated my friend colleague's 35th year. And it's unbelievable to work somewhere. And this is in entertainment and all the films I worked on previously. It's so film to film, you jump around, move around. To be able to work at an entertainment at one place for 30, 40 years, it's remarkable to celebrate these milestones of the people that have been here so long and created the work that inspired me. They're still here. The people from Aladdin are still in the building, still leading the teams, inspiring. It's amazing place to be.
Yeah, and it's great to see, how Disney animation has kind of, come back to its Renaissance period. Because I think there was a period there, maybe 70s, early 80s, where people felt like maybe a little bit of the magic had waned. And with, Little Mermaid and Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, and, carrying right through to, like Zootopia, which I believe you also worked on. So, just as a fan of animation and Disney and everything like that, it's been great to kind of see things on such a high for so long. So, talking a little bit about Moana too. Obviously, you can't give away too much, I know, about the story or specifics, but any particular opportunities or challenges in working on this film that you think maybe are like a next step ahead from the first film?
Yeah, I think it's been 8 years since the first film, and our technology has advanced. And the first film was so amazing. There's so much feedback on how amazing it was at that time. The ocean, the simulation, the hair, like everything was amazing. We just have leveled that up, and the hair looks, better than it did before. The ocean is amazing. All the simulation and effects work is just unbelievable. And I'm here, I'm in it, and I'm impressed daily by my coworkers, and people take their shot and just everyone does their best. And we all care. We all grew up loving Disney. We all want this to be the best film possible. So everyone puts so much craft and care and creativity into every frame. So I'm impressed when I see a lighting daily or when I see an effects shot. Oh, I wonder what that's going to look like. And, it impresses us, even us working on it.
Yeah, I think it's maybe something a lot of people don't realize, just your average movie fan, is how painstaking animation is. It's not months, it's years of the whole process. Like for instance, like what would be your total time? Not just you, but everybody working on like a Moana 2. I mean, you're handing off different parts to different teams. Can you just talk a little bit about how long and big a process it is?
Yeah, I mean, I think our total is over 600 artists on this film. And I personally worked on 4 sequences. And in general, we'll split a sequence, say it's about 4 minutes. That could be 4 artists. So I would do 1 minute or 1/4 of a sequence. In this film, I got a sequence that on my own. And so I do about 4 minutes of a 90-minute film. And we have a team of 25 layout artists. I also was a layout filing artist. So we create the layout, stage the action, pass it on to animation. And that's where there's a lot of time and craft in the animation process, animating these performances, creating life, believability. And then it comes back to camera polishing and set decoration, and all the detail comes in. I really enjoyed that too. It could be moving plants, adding trees, moving rocks, refining the camera, changing the depth of field. All this detail work is kind of what people don't understand, that 70 artists touched every single shot in this film. And there's thousands of shots. And so it's, we crafted this to be the most entertaining, beautiful, engaging product.
Yeah. And something I also like seeing is Disney doing something that they didn't really do kind of in their previous heyday, which was doing sequels. And we've been seeing people really embracing, those sequels. I mean, like Inside Out 2, I think is still the highest grossing film of 2024. Although maybe there's a little friendly competition. You guys are hoping Moana 2 will bump it out of that place. But and they're not just doing sequels just to do sequels. They're actually like, it feels like it's a really organic extension of there's more story to tell here. And talk a little bit about how people really felt like there was more story to tell with Moana too.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was, alluding to earlier, with like 600 people all in, trying to do their best work, trying to inspire the next generation of artists, trying to entertain, people of all ages. We care so much about that. So it wouldn't be let's just make a sequel. This is like, we need to have that story. We need it to be the best story. We go back, redo things or have a lot of changes in my department and layout. There's so much flexibility with working with story and art that there's a lot of iteration to make this the best story possible. So I consider myself a visual storyteller. So I'll take a storyboard and think, how can I plus this? What would make this the most exciting? If it's an action sequence, what would make this the most touching and heartwarming? If it's Moana and her little sister. So I was inspired a bit by my daughter, who's now 8 years old, but I had a sequence with Moana and her little sister at the beginning of the film. And I was very inspired by my daughter, what she would do in this moment. And I had some shots that were chosen for the trailer that were inspired by my daughter when she was Samea's age. So that's an important moment to me. And I'm excited to tell my daughter that was inspired, in part by you. And she's so excited for the film. And my son as well, he's 11.
Well, that's just great. Well, I see we're at our time, and I can't think of a better note to end on. But thanks so much for taking time to speak with me. Congratulations on your success, and really looking forward to seeing Moana too.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
All right. Have a great one.
Bye.